According to YouTube statistics, only a small percentage of people that watch my videos are actually women! Super Mario Bros. Z was an iconic series. I know, right? Being notable for its high quality animation, great storytelling, and clever dialogue, it put the Olympic Games to shame, and it's often deemed as the true Mario and Sonic crossover. Unfortunately, you know the rest. After episode 8, the series remained incomplete. I know episode 9 exists, but it less shown the main attention span, so there's that. Still, even after its discontinuation, SMBZ left a huge mark on the fan community, inspiring countless animations, tributes, and fan art. What? Wait a minute. Get out! But what barely anyone talks about, though, was the aftermath of it all. Chances are, if you searched SMBZ episode 9, SMBZ episode 10 on YouTube, you're gonna get videos like this. And man, were they everywhere. Why does Mario talk? Why does the flood disappear? How does the flood disappear? Why is there gore? Why does it look like Luigi's gonna have butt sex with Basilix? What? Actually, I'm curious. What the fuck?
Hello, and welcome to the Los Pollos Hermanos family.
Now, what's the relation between any of this and today's main topic? It's to understand that SMBZ not only had a positive impact, but also a negative one on the genre of animation, at least when it came to Mario and Sonic. There used to be several series with unique premises and scenarios which made them all different from one another. Bowser's Kingdom, Final Fantasy Sonic, Sonic RPG, Rise of the Mushroom Kingdom, Sonic Reversal. But as soon as SMBZ finished, it felt like many series were attempting to take its place, ranging from alright to less impressive renditions, to say the least. There was one series, though, one that took its story in a new, exciting and admittedly refreshing journey where elements of SMB's story are mostly absent. It is a series that has become lost and irrelevant nowadays due to the recent episodes being mediocre. However, I think it's a series worth remembering because the original 8 episodes were decent. Hence why we are here today. To remember, Super Mario Bros. Heroes of the Stars. No place to start other than the opening. I firmly believe when I say this that this is probably my favorite opening out of any Sprite series. It's so bombastic that it just really gets me in the mood. The heroes appearing in time to the drum beats gives me goosebumps. The main verse has been stuck in my head for as long as I can remember. It even manages to make Bowser flying by the power farts feel oddly epic. I can get away with saying that, right? This theme has such an energy to it that even another series, Mario Sonic Roads in Danger, went on to also use it for its intro as well. That's the sign of a good theme right there. Wait a minute. Before I begin, I should clarify how I'm gonna tackle the overall structure of the series, since I think it's really necessary. Heroes of the Stars currently has 11 episodes, and unlike most series, these episodes are often divided in 2, 3 or 4 parts. This, mixed with 3 separate remasters, 1 for episode 2 and 2 for episode 1, watching the series can be quite confusing. On one hand, it benefits the audience as they won't have to wait for so long, but it also negatively affects them. For example, let's say you're watching episode 2, you finish part 1, and you're gonna watch part 2. But then, you notice the text boxes being different, the animation being worse, and the drawings being... Turns out, this is version 2, and part 1 of what you were watching before was version 1. See what I mean? The point is, I'll just watch the first versions of everything, This is why I showed the first version of the opening. It's just to avoid confusion. I will compare between versions though. Okay, I spent too much time on the intro, let's just start. Episode 1. A New Beginning. It starts off with the power-hungry alien race who are on the lookout for a new planet they can conquer and settle in, the Shrews. They're essentially the same villains with the same goals as in Marvel Ouija Partners in Time, but I don't think that's a problem. They didn't get to reach their full potential in the MNL series, at least compared to the likes of Awful. So their inclusion doesn't actually bother me, and it's kind of refreshing. Wario and Waluigi are unironically the first characters to appear in the entire series. The Shrews don't count since they were just a shadow. I don't know, just feel like saying this. The duo is trying to find a pipe that leads to Princess Peach's treasure chamber. Because a pipe like that exists and is out in the open. Okay. Bowser Jr. then appears and offers to form a temporary alliance between the three of them. Meanwhile, Mario is sleeping in broad daylight until Luigi gets a concussion from a falling parakarry, who lays Peach's invite for a party. Damn, no spelling mistake. Yoshi joins them, Mario says paisanos, and off they go. It's your typical Mario intro, nothing really special about it. Cut back to the Wario Bros and Bowser Jr. again, who find the treasure chamber with extreme ease and somehow didn't come across a single Toad girl. Actually, the only Toads that do appear in this episode are Toadsworth and Toadberg, and the latter is the one that finds the Wario gang already at the treasure. You may be asking, what is the security? No! Where is the security? Toads. We're useless. Anyway, even if Toadberg managed to alert them, it's already too late. Bowser infiltrates the castle and knocks Yoshi and Luigi unconscious. While all of this is happening, Mario and Peach are having a picnic. Peach introduces the Warp Star, a transportation device created by the gods and the star spirits to travel from planet to planet, and apparently only one human can use it, that being Mario, the chosen one. Let's note the fact that Peach managed to call it without Mario's aid. After the Outward Dump, Luigi and Yoshi crash land right next to them. This distracts Mario for a whole 7 seconds, which is enough for Peach to get captured. Oh, for fuck's sake. Bowser then shows his ugly mug, and with that, the episode ends. Really basic episode, but since it's the first one, it's fine. I think the highlight is the natural crescendo of the intensity. And when I say typical Mario intro on that one scene before, I just didn't mean that scene. It's kinda the whole episode actually. Although that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, it's just that I've seen this scenario once too many times. It would be cool if some tropes could be subverted. Before I move on, I just want to discuss something for a little bit. I remember hearing from a lot of people that characters such as Mario, Luigi and Yoshi talking was really off-putting and cursed. But honestly, it's not that big of an issue. Here, first of all, it's established that they're able to talk ever since the beginning of this series. Go back to when I asked why was Mario talking in one of the SMBZ bootlegs, that's because it's established in the original SMBZ that Mario only speaks in Italian gibberish, so going from that to this is what's actually out of place and it's inconsistent with the original source. Also, the reason why I believe Mute Mario worked in SMBZ is that each time there was a heavy dialogue scene, the Sonic side would be the one talking and the Mario side would be the one reacting. And it's a great contrast. However, in Heroes of Stars, there is no Sonic, there is no Shadow, there is no Mecha Sonic. So I think making the Mario characters talk was understandable. Episode 2. The Man Against the Beast. This one starts out right after the last one ended. Mario uses the Warp Star, finding his way up to one of the airships, eventually destroying it. He targets another one, which contains the Wario Bros, Bowser Jr. and the treasure, which they managed to stall in the previous episode, but Bowser prevents that by hitting him with a fireball, making him fall to the ground. What follows after is essentially phase 1 of the episode where Mario, Luigi and Yoshi fight elite soldiers. At first, I thought this phase was kind of irrelevant. It's fodder enemies, Mario already fought them before. But this is introducing Luigi and Yoshi's powers or abilities, more specifically Luigi's Thunder Hand and Yoshi's overall tankiness. And then there's phase 2, which is the climax of the episode. Mario fights Bowser, Luigi fights Bowser Jr., and Yoshi fights Boshi. By the way, I think it's really cool that we have 3 separate fights going on. When one starts to overstay their welcome, we switch to another. It's clever. Obviously the main fight here is still Mario vs Bowser, and the other two serve more as appetizers. Now, the overall animation. What can I say about the overall animation? It's not SMBC. Whoa, really? I think it's a really high bar to surpass anyway, especially at the time, 2011, trying to emulate what SMBC did. Nah, that's impossible. Still, it's fine for what it is. We got some cool shots as well. After the villains get defeated, which, yeah, I saw that coming, there was a moment that I really liked, and it's a little moment that sets up a plotline that's eventually resolved in episode 4. Mario tells Bowser that it's been 2 years since he tried to capture Peach for the first time. He affirms that all of his efforts have always been futile. It always resulted with Mario saving the day. Then, as he's going away, he looks back at him and gets a 10-second flashback of all their previous battles. What this hints is that Mario somewhat feels sorry for Bowser. Deep down, he knows the Koopa King is a good guy, and each time he won against him, he would slowly lose his pride. By showing this, it's obvious that this charade has gone for too long now. When will Bowser ever learn to stop? To swallow this huge pride of his and move on? In the official Mario timeline, he never does. But what if it did? Obviously, he can't just change his behavior from one moment to another. There needs to be other factors. Bigger factors. The parallel between this and Mario destroying one early on, but taking quite some time to do that, is a great first impression on how powerful the shrubs actually are. Also, as if Bowser's honor wasn't already hurt after he lost to Mario once again, his army, his pride and soul, is just disintegrated in seconds. This is a great introduction to the shrubs. After that, the shrubs' mothership sucks Peach off and kidnap Peach and the treasure, yeah. And they go towards Bowser's castle, thus ending episode 2. This whole scene was nothing more than a great showcase of the show don't tell philosophy. So little was shown, yet so much was told. Unlike episode 1, there wasn't really much to say about this much, this is mostly just fights. But this does give me the opportunity to make a comparison between this version and... because it's actually kinda sad how downgraded this was. A downgrade so bad it essentially created my channel. I'm gonna give 2 comparisons, and if you've watched my review / roast of episode 2's remaster, then you know these scenes. When Mario is charging towards an airship in version 2, he defeats 3 bullet bills in the span of 24 seconds. However, in version 1, he defeats hordes of enemies in the span of 20 seconds. So, why did the former take so long with less enemies to defeat? That's because of several unnecessary awkward cuts and the pacing just being all over the place. Version 1. It's fluid, it's fast, it showcases Mario's strength, it has multiple layers to it. If you look at version 2, something that I also pointed out in my other video is that there are several seconds of nothing, and those mere seconds can ruin the whole flow of the fight. Plus, this scene is not showing anything, it's just Mario slapping 3 bullets. The next example is the scene I praised so much moments ago. How will the remaster handle it? Will it perhaps improve it even more? Add more depth to it? No, it's the exact opposite. Unlike the original episode, where the scene conveys its message through visual cues, the remaster version falls into this trap of excessive filler dialogue and unnecessary explanations. The pacing is slower and less engaging, as if it's trying to spoon-feed the audience with information rather than let them reach the conclusion themselves. This problem applies to Mario, who states that he wants Bowser to turn over a new leaf, which, at this stage, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever, and it especially applies to Bowser, who spends 2 minutes ranting in front of his arch-nemesis like a toddler. Stating his feelings and intentions for a long time does not fit his character at all. So much is shown, yet so little is told. Episode 3. The Legacy of Shoes. This one is where Heroes of Stars really starts to pick up. The Shubs have now arrived at Bowser's castle, with Mario's team and Bowser's team following suit right after. Because the two groups are separated, we got an interesting parallel here. Mario's scenes are lighthearted, goofy, fun. Threat is almost non-existent on their side. There's a scene where he's just going from one end of the room to another while trying to not be detected by some dancing Shubs celebrating their arrival. On the other side, Bowser's scenes feel dull and hopeless. Not only has he lost his army in the previous episode, now he has lost his castle as well as his underlings and advisors. Everything of what made Bowser's kingdom is slowly being taken away. This does not just affect him, it affects Bowser Jr. too, who actually cries a little at seeing his brothers being put into an eternal sleep, with no real solution in sight. This parallel between sides is actually kinda similar to a scene in SMBZ episode 2 Reboot. In that series, we spent over 5 minutes on a silly and goofy montage. Its purpose was nothing more than to give the audience a false sense of safety, which made Metallic's arrival to the scene later on much more terrifying without any form of dialogue. It dramatically twisted the tone by showing just how threatening and deadly the main villain can be. This is why the same applies to the Shubs. They are shown being goofy, sure, but their actions so far definitely aren't. It's a great balance between being comical and threatening. Which, by the way, also completely goes in line with how they're portrayed in the origin game. Eventually, the two groups quietly arrive at the throne room. Princess Shub, the leader of the Shubs, proceeds to ask Peach about the Star Spirits, something that was mentioned back in episode 1, but she refuses, obviously. I find the next moment endearing. So, Princess Shub releases a pity piranha to, well, force the information on Peach, and somebody doesn't let that happen. Is it Mario? Is it Luigi? No! I interpret this scene in two different ways. Either Bowser just got tired of waiting, or he unknowingly wanted to save Peach. I prefer the latter since it proves Mario's point of view even further. After the gig is up and the gang and anti-gang reveal themselves, as well as Wario and Luigi, Princess Shub summons the Dark Star. In mere seconds, the tide has turned. I like to think that Wario, Luigi, Bowser Jr. and Yoshi got sent way further because, well, they are weaker than Mario, Luigi, Yoshi and Bowser, who landed just outside the castle. The crew realizes that they are powerless against Darkstar and decide to retreat for Peach's castle in the meantime, although the episode does not end there, as they have another problem in their hand. Mario decides to bring them along, which leaves Luigi and Yoshi confused because, well, he's a bad guy. This decision does not come out of nowhere due to those scenes that came beforehand. The episode ends with them using the Warp Star to Peach's castle along with Bowser. So far, this has been the best episode. First of all, the things that bother me the most were just simple annoyances. There's some corny dialogue here and there, although that was also present in early episodes and the later ones. Mario carrying a warp pipe in his pocket where there wasn't any setup for that. The Dark Star not being tethered to the rods. Like, come on, how do you fumble that bad? So yeah, I almost had no issues with this episode. No major issues at least. In case you haven't noticed, Heroes of Stars is a far slower paced series. Some even say it's the most anime-like sprite series ever. And, well, that's up to you whether that's a good thing or not. But you can't deny that a slower pace does not equal bad, as it shines with character interactions between each other. And this episode was full of them. From Yoshi saving Luigi from being spotted, Luigi crying next to Mario because it was almost spotted, from Yoshi scaring Bowser Jr. with creepy stories, and Bowser being angry at that, Luigi being angry at Mario because he jumped jumped on Princess Shub, and Bowser being a badass all around. Episode 4. An Unlikely Alliance. Mario and Bowser. Where the fuck were you all this time? Their princess was recently kidnapped. They should be on high alert. But no, they're goofing around, hoping Mario rescued her. No wonder she always gets captured if he has incompetent Toads like this. The guards, as well as Toadsworth and Toadbird, are all flabbergasted to see that instead of Princess Peach, Mario brought the king of the Koopas himself. Unconscious no less. What could this all possibly mean? The team lays out the events of episode 2 and 3 through flashbacks, which, gotta say, really outstay their welcome. At some point, Luigi mentions the Dark Star, the sole reason to why they all lost. Apparently, Toadbird knows the entity itself, and proceeds to explain its story. Which, yes, it's also the same origin story as in Bowser's Inside Story. A purely evil organism that desires nothing but to bring total darkness to the land. Before it did any harm, it was sealed by the Star Sprites. Although, there's one little different detail when comparing Heroes of Stars and Bowser's Inside Story. Instead of Princess Peach being the only one able to ascend the Dark Star, it's Princess Shub now. How? Well, this is actually never explained in the series for some reason. In Bowser's Inside Story, it's showcased several times along the plot that Peach has a special power within her. She was even the catalyst for the Dark Star to be awakened because of that power in the first place. In Heroes of Stars, there's literally no evidence that Princess Shub possesses any of these traits. There's also zero connection established between the Shubs and the Dark Star, which, by this logic, there should be. Having the same color palette is not enough, guys. I still stand by my point even in the next episodes, most importantly, episode 5. When they're studying the Shubs, it's written that their ships are powered by the Dark Star. And that's it. And it doesn't even make sense. How could we be powered by the Dark Star if he was sealed all this time? And their ships were already working before they even freed the damn thing. All they did was create another plot hole that didn't add context to anything. Back to episode 4 though, Mario points out that Toad Town is in ruins due to the Shub's invasions. Aside from the fact that it's an excellent way to show that the world doesn't revolve around their heroes and other areas in the kingdom also got affected off screen, the execution is a bit lackluster. Assuming all Toads live in Toad Town, the way the guards acted at the start does not reflect that notion in the slightest. Their home probably got destroyed and they're like, hee hee, when will Mario come? So this just seemed like a rushed afterthought at the last minute. Man, this episode is just full of plot holes in the beginning. Makes you wonder if it's actually good or not. No, it is good. It has one redeeming quality that saves it. Bowser. In my opinion, Bowser's character has always been more about just himself. He's tied to an army, advisors, generals, a castle, and his son. When you think of Bowser, it's not just him, it's everything around him as well. So if you strip that away, you're stripping away a part of his character. And what we are left with is a shadow of its former self. That's Bowser in episode 4. He's lost it all. His army decimated. His advisors and generals put into an eternal sleep. His castle stolen. His son gone. Bowser Jr. was the last straw. This intentional stripping away of everything connected him had the simple intention to make us feel bad for him, to sympathize with him. I found myself feeling sorry for him even before the Shubs came in, and after they did, I actually began to root for him. And that's the point. We're drawn into this world of vulnerability and despair, a side of him which we've never seen before in the games. I mean it when I say that Bowser is the best part of Heroes of Stars. This entire plotline that I've been talking about since episode 2 culminates in the moment where he has no choice but to align with Mario. I don't care if the dialogue when he joins the heroes is corny. I don't care if the next moment is an awkward attempt to break the tension with a comedic scene. What I do care is character development that led us up until this point. It's the journey that truly matters, and Heroes of Stars successfully made Bowser a multidimensional character. His transformation feels earned and authentic. That's what resonated with me. Episode 5, The Mystery is Revealed. Meet the Stars Restrospective. Man, this title is getting longer. After drawing so much in the early episode and completely overran the floor, the gang goes to oh shit, a good looking Mario? And it's animated? What? I must cope with this. I really like the slice of life moments in HOTS. It makes the world and characters feel more grounded. Like, you don't have these moments in SMBHOTS. And that's the fine, guys, put the pitchforks down. It wouldn't make sense to include this in there too. Tone and pace are way too different. At some point, Toadsworth rightfully asks how they will proceed in order to defeat the Shubs. Mario says they'll do so by finding the Star Spirits. a callback to episode 1 where Peach informed about that. However, they don't know where they are or how to get them. Additionally, their knowledge on the shrubs is non-existent. As far as they know, they just got followed by something that looks like purple COVID. They will need some intel. So, they just go to a library to study about entities. That's right, guys. That's right, guys. Studying, aka the worst activity ever, exists in HOTS. At least they did it voluntarily. Like me. I gotta say that the following montage is kinda funny, but for the wrong reasons. The almighty Koopa King himself searches for a bunch of books alongside his arch nemesis. Bowser goes from
I want to kill Mario!
to
I really don't want to join Mario!
and then to
Alright, where's that fucking book?
and they do eventually find them. Although I don't think the exposition was handled well here. For the Shrubs book, we got a huge text wall, and I mean a huge one, goddamn, explaining the backstory. And should I read all this?
Shrubs, they're purple, blah 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 blah.
It's similar to Sonic Forces. The immersion was not existent in that game because important events such as Eggman conquering the world or the double flashback in Shadow's DLC were both explained to a bunch of text. Even fucking Sonic Chronicles the Black Air Force Brotherhood had better exposition segments. It's a better game too, but we're not ready to talk about that. The Stars Restrospective book is a lot more tolerable, also because it's way smaller. It's literally that meme but without making sense. I'm not that mad at this particular scene, just add visual montages instead of relying on a bunch of words to get the job done. It's a way more efficient method to get the audience invested in the exposition that's being given. Well, at least the music fits. The team learns that the Star Spirits can be found in Starhaven, so they just go there. Unfortunately, it's discovered that they've been captured by Princess Shrub's top minions, who are scattered throughout the world and the moon. Damn, that was fast. Thus, Act 2 of the series kicks off, a journey to recover the Star Spirits to defeat the Dark Star and save Princess Peach. Mario has a totally corny speech on how they're gonna save the universe, and this time, they aren't just ordinary heroes. No, they're more. They are heroes of the stars. Big fiction right there, holy shit, well, move over SMBHOTS. This episode was great in terms of setting up the events of the series. It essentially laid down the groundwork for how the entire Act 2 would go, an arc for each Star Spirit. This might sound repetitive, but if done well, it can stand out. I mean, the 4 previous episodes have. World building was also expanded upon. In the previous 4 episodes, locations were minuscule. In episode 1, it was a glance at Toad Town, it was Peach's castle, and then a bunch of grass, which you should touch, by the way. In episode 2, it was also a bunch of grass. In episode 3, it's Bowser's castle, and then episode 4, it's Peach's castle again. In episode 5, however, we went from a restaurant to a library, a Star Haven, and finally, a glance at all the locations the heroes will go through in the future. It's kinda hype, not gonna lie. Episode 6, The Galactic Journey Begins, Gumboss's Rage, and Episode 7, Showdown in Gumboss's Fortress, Eldstar, the first Star Spirit. Bro, are you serious right now? These are sentences. Now, I feel that it would be easier if I put these 2 episodes together because 6 and 7 essentially consist of the first arc, and it's better organized that way. We start off with the heroes buying power-ups for their trip to Gumboss's Fortress, the location of the first Star Spirit. Wait, they bought 2 Flower Flowers but used 3?
This is actually a huge plot hole in the series and it completely destroys what the episode are going for. Unwatchable garbage if I do say so myself.
Finally, they take off. You get a montage of their journey. All I can say about it is that it's harmless, inoffensive fun, and I can pretty much tell that was the objective here. Okay, I do have something to point out because I thought it was actually funny. At some point, there's a cliff that's preventing the crew from reaching the other side. Luigi goes to the inside of that cliff to build a pipe. He has a real hard time in there, but the man still finishes it. Although, when he emerges from the other side, the crew is already there, meaning the whole thing was pointless and he just wasted a fire flower. And then he just shrugs it off like, we are not talking about this. Stuff like this is why this man is by codes, okay? In the middle of their trip, they get ambushed by Junior Trooper. What is this fetus doing, bro? He's trying to beef for no reason, thinking he's able to solo all the main characters. Bro thinks it's him. So yeah, he gets demolished. Don't know what the point of that was. I suppose it could be like an obstacle during that journey. If so, yeah, that makes sense. It was more like a speed bump though. On a more serious note, and I'm gonna go on a tangent here, this was something that I should have pointed out right in the beginning of the retrospective, but I suppose it fits here too. Do you recognize this frame? I hope the majority of the answers is yes, because this frame was the thumbnail for episode 6 part 1, which ended up being the most watched Heroes of Stars episode ever, with around 6 million views, and that was just the part. Part 2 at 3.1 million and part 3 at 1.4 million. Putting all parts together, it's safe to say that episode 6 as a whole reached 10 million views. That's SMBC levels of popularity right there. There was some point between 2013 and 2014, Heroes of Stars was as popular as SMBC. That is a crazy feat, and one to be proud of. Although, why am I suddenly pointing out all of this, and why am I speaking in past tense? Because folks, these videos do not exist anymore. On the 22nd of February 2023, the channel of the Heroes of Stars creator, Asylus Goji 91 Studios, got hacked by a Tesla dick rider, and YouTube, being YouTube, instead of fixing the issue and giving the channel back to Asylus, it just terminated all of it, with no chance of recuperation. On that day, all of Asylus' hard work had just disappeared, along with 120,000 subscribers. I do not want to imagine what the man went through, losing his entire channel overnight. He eventually created a new one, but he couldn't possibly hope to reach the levels his previous one had. It took years to build that up. Long gone are the episodes that millions of people watched. So I ask of you, the viewer, if you aren't already subscribed to him, please do. It's the least you can do. I have criticized some of his episodes, sure, but he's a person with the heart in the right place. For example, when he and Smasher sent 2 copyright strikes to my channel, almost killing it, your channel is terminated if you get 3, I'll talk to one of his friends on Discord saying that my videos fell under fair use and they weren't meant to insult the creator himself. Asylus removed the strike. While I'll never personally talk to him, if he is watching, I'll just say, thank you. I didn't mention it in the beginning, but this was another reason that led me to make this retrospective, as a form of respect, and to make people remember that yes, this series did exist, and it still does. As of now, he's rebooting the series yet again, and while I'm personally against it, I find it commendable that he still wants to work on the series and his other projects. That takes a lot of willpower, and I'll always respect Asylus for that. Finally, the team reaches their destination, Goomba's fortress. It's here that they meet their first ally, Tony Goomba. Asylus has a friend whose internet name is Tough Tony, and I'm like 87% sure that this Goomba was crafted with him in mind. If so, kinda cool. The crew hatches out a plan. While Luigi and Yoshi infiltrate the base to retrieve the Star Spirit, Mario and Bowser divert Goomba's attention on the outside. Meanwhile, however, Goombas finds out that Tony has been spying on his throne room, where he is harboring his Star Spirit. As is about to set Tony for execution due to his betrayal, Luigi comes to his rescue. Nice. Yoshi joins his side, he turns into Pharaoh Luigi and starts to roast some toasted Goombas. They get inside of the fortress along with Tony. Goombas notices this, but he gets ambushed by Mario and Bowser from behind. Man, I love strategy. I don't want to go on detail on the skirmishes, but basically Goombas has this power, Iron Body, which is clearly a One Piece reference, and triumphs in the first round, going after Luigi, Yoshi and Tony next. Moving on to episode 7, Mario figures out how to counter Iron Body, which is hammering his crotch. Okay Mario, I see your game. I actually find this a neat fight progression. Even if it's really minimal, it makes the clash not be just mindless punches and kicks. Goombas eventually loses. Yeah, it's to be expected, but I don't care. If I have to get my thoughts on the fight overall though, it was good. It had a decent pace, it had some creative shots and ideas, it had original choreography, and most importantly, it got plagiarized by SMBHOTS in his cancelled GT series. That's how you know this whole setting and fight was good, because it got completely copied by someone else. Hold on, is that gore? You know, this is actually pretty tame compared to this. Man, this guy just botches everything, doesn't he? Goomboss reveals his backstory. It's here that we learn that he was the first ever Goomba that was present in Bowser's army, although he was a weak one, so Bowser cast him out. From this point onwards, this Goomba wanted to get stronger to prove himself to Bowser as a form of revenge. So, when Princess Shrew defeated the heroes, the Goomba wasted no time in trying to obtain power to the Dark Star, turning him into that villain that we all know and love that gets pissed when some eggs are thrown at him. I can imagine all the villains behind him being in line, waiting to get their own Star Spirit. It was a really short amount of time, guys. While this is not explicit, I think Bowser realizes that all Goomboss wanted was to prove his worth in terms of his strength, because he pretty much accepts him back into his own army, playing it to his redemption from episode 4, which is a nice touch. And so, the heroes finally obtain the first Star Spirit, L-Star. The rest of episode 7 is Peach's path during all this time. It's here that we get introduced to a new character, General Shrews. Sick design, by the way. This whole section of the episode provides a much needed context on what's happening on the Shrews side. But it's kinda just Princess Shrew reacting to Mario and Code getting the first Star Spirit and then sending the X-Nauts to hijack their journey for the second one. It's nothing special really, and I think it drags a bit. It's serviceable. Episode 8. Bowser Jr.'s separation story, crashing on Yoshi's Island. That's better. Out of all the episodes that I've covered so far, I'd say that this is the simplest one. The focus shifts to the other 4 characters that were launched by the Dark Star's attack: Wario, Waluigi, Boshi, and Bowser Jr., who land on Yoshi's Island. At first, the local Yoshis are hostile, but upon seeing Boshi, one of their kind, they turn friendly. This peace does not last long, as the Shrews launch an attack to conquer the island, prompting the anti-heroes to defend it, and they do so, defeating the invaders. The Yoshi tribe reward them with a feast, and they take off by boat. That's it. That's the episode. Although, just because it's the simplest doesn't mean it's bad. I'd say that this is actually the most unique Heroes of Stars chapter yet. First off, name me a Sprite episode that covers other characters that aren't the main protagonists for an entire episode without it being filler. That's right, you can. From episode 3 to 7, the narrative followed the adventures of the 4 main characters. In episode 8, however, that narrative is twisted to focus on the other 4, meaning the premise alone was already great here because it was fresh. Secondly, just like with Bowser, these anti-heroes turn into heroes, by successfully saving the Yoshis from their Shrew oppression. It's character development and you love to see it. Trust me when I say this that it doesn't happen very often in Sprite series. For the most part, both the heroes and the villains are these cardboard characters that are either devoid of development and emotion or are either completely irrelevant in the story. It's either one or the other or both, but never none. Which shouldn't definitely be the case if you're writing the story that's meant to entertain. Fights are not all there is to it. It's not even only the fans that get it wrong, but official products too. One look at Sonic Prime and you'll see what I mean. People appreciated the Amy's because they got their respective arc. Meanwhile, Sonic is this dumbass who's sure to learn from the first mistake and make things up, but he continues to not really care. For Prime itself, it's incredible how this is the Sonic show with the best animation, yet the fights are the most boring ones. There's a lack of depth in them. They occupy 80% of the screen time. Season 3 had like 30 minutes of actual plot and I'm not even joking. Anyway, episode 8 is good. These first 8 episodes of Heroes of Stars mean a lot to me. They were a part of my childhood and probably the childhoods of thousands of other people. These episodes aren't perfect. Episode 1 is too generic, episode 4 created some plot holes, and episode 7 had a forgettable last session. But damn man, was this a good series still. We saw Bowser struggle, and cheer for him when he changed sides. We got Luigi not being a total loser all the time. We got character development, we got a sense of progression. We got a series whose story is not complete garbage. However, it does not end here. Episodes 9, 10 and 11 still await my detailed analysis. But if you watch my videos on those episodes, the quality in the series took a massive drop from here on out. I don't exactly know what happened between episodes 8 and 9, but upon rewatching the series, I noticed some differences between these 2 episodes. Up until this point, Heroes of Stars has had episodes with equal importance in the plot. Episode 1 established the heroes and the status quo, Episode 2 established the villains, Episode 3 emphasized their danger, Episode 4 was a shift in the narrative. Episode 5 practically told us the structure of the future episodes. Episode 6 and 7 were the first victory for the heroes, and Episode 8 felt like a breath of fresh air. Removing even one of these chapters from the story would just make no sense. Every episode mattered, so obviously the same should also happen for the next ones. But it doesn't. Episode 9, Princess Daisy Captured? The Return of King Wart. I'll say the start of 9 is still somewhat relevant. It's the scene where Princess Shu meets Wart and tasks him to capture the second star spirit that was mistakenly sent to Daisy's kingdom. But even from this point, I started to notice some small cracks here and there. During this 6-minute scene alone, there were 3 instances of fourth wall breaks. Dialogue was already hot so weakly, so becoming even worse, it's definitely not helping its case. I wouldn't mind these if the jokes weren't so in your face, like we punished the Shu in the most nostalgic way possible, and it cuts to him being thrown to the lava via the axe. Like, am I supposed to go, yo, Super Mario Bros. 1 reference? I understood the joke. The funny just wasn't there. So the next scene is immediately followed by Wart's invasion on Sarah's Island. I know that I mentioned before about the restrictions of sprites, but Daisy's castle is just a recolored recreation of Peach's castle from episode 4. Like, even the incompetent Toad Guards and their placements are the exact same. This isn't a parallel dimension, it's an entirely different kingdom, with different additions, different building designs. In the end here, I can't even blame the unoriginality, because supposedly, the only instance where Daisy's castle was shown in official media was in a Super Mario Land manga. So, yeah. I got this from Maze, who's a friend of mine, who got it from a Twitter account called Super Mario Bros. Did you know that in Bowser's Inside Story, Bowser is just a heavily modified Luigi? This is proven by the fact that if you hack Bowser into the Junker boss, it will reveal his Luigi nature. I love this account. Anyway, Daisy immediately falls to Wart with no resistance at all. If it was Peach, I slightly understand, but not Daisy. Even saying, Luigi, save me! Bro, she would not say that. She'd probably kick Wart in the nuts and run for it. There's a lack of tension here. Also, Wart's threat was that he'd destroy Sarah's land if Daisy didn't comply, but then when they leave, it's destroyed anyway, so like, bruh? Consistency who? And now, we get to the rest of the episode. To simple it down, this section is literally a live reaction from the gang upon hearing what happened to the end of episode 7 and the start of episode 9. And my fucking god, does it drag a lot. But before that, I just gotta mention the characterization. Luigi's personality goes off the rails. That chill dude we saw in episode 6 and 7 is now replaced by a wimp that goes nuts simply by hearing what happened to Daisy. Starlo appears and somehow is even more annoying than she is in the M&L games. Congratulations. And yet again, another fourth wall break joke, now with Pokemon. Hooray! Only at the end of whatever the hell this scene was, they realize, oh wait, with the main heroes, we gotta do something. But then, oh no, the train isn't working for a whole day and we can't do anything until then. So I guess we'll just train. Like, why? You spent this whole episode in the same place. Why pad this even more? However, they do consider using the Warp Star, but it's like nah, for no other reason than to actually have a forced training episode following this one. A decision that will always baffle me. And the final scene is, yet again, another Peach scene. We already had that at the end of episode 7, and now it's starting to get repetitive. And nothing of importance happens here either. Princess Shu tries to make Peach reveal the locations of the 4 legendary warriors, who definitely aren't self-insert OCs, and fails because she's protected by some earrings. Like, should I try to make sense with this? Nah. 9 is the introduction to the next arc. That's objectively true, and that sounds like it matters to the story, right? Here's what episode 9 will look like with proper pacing. All I did was take off the moments that I felt like it didn't matter. So I trimmed down some lines from Daisy's act, trimmed down a lot of lines from the hero's act, and removed Peach scene entirely. And here's the actual length of the episode. We have to sit through minutes of wordless banter across all sections of 9. This is what I mean by saying this episode is filler, because most of it is. Episode 10. Why? Yeah, that's about it for this one. Episode 11. Trials in Dry Desert. Finding the door to... Fine, I'll cover 10. So 10 is... something. Yeah, let's go with that. It's something. It exists. It's the episode of all time. While 9, with some adjustments, could have been as equally as relevant as the other ones beforehand, 10? Just remove 10. Entirely. Like the previous episode was set up, this one is a training arc. Yoshi fights Bowser and Mario fights Luigi. So right off the bat, 80% of it is just fights. But what is there of the only 20%? It's kinda poo-poo. So let's start with... Okay, that sounds about right. If you thought he was weird in episode 9, then get ready, because he's even worse in 10. So, before him and Mario have a duel, Luigi has this long-ass, well-text dialogue, which can be simplified as, I don't wanna be a coward, and live in my brother's shadow. Looking at this out of context, you'd think that this would be a good start of an arc for Luigi. Which, I agree. Despite that already being done in Dream Team, but whatever, it's there, and that's what matters. But this isn't meant to be taken out of context. This is episode 10 of a series. And so, we've seen several moments of Luigi acting on his own and not being a coward. Him saying this comes out of nowhere because he's already past that stage. In this series, he's always been past that stage. What the audience sees is just a cringy moment that doesn't make any sense to be here at this time. And the worst part is, he beats Mario at the duel. I don't want to enter any power scale in debate right now, but Luigi winning against Mario is just ridiculous and absurd. And this is coming from a Luigi fan. Here's what I think. Mario is stronger in a fight. But it's not all there is to it, because Luigi's qualities shine elsewhere. He's kinder, he jumps higher, he's more relatable. Both brothers have their own strengths and weaknesses, which all complement each other. I think a great example here would be to show their initial stats in a Mario Luigi game. In these games, there are 6 types of stats: HP, SP, Power, Defense, Speed, and Stats, which is basically luck. Mario begins with more Power, more SP, and more Speed, while Luigi starts off with more HP, more Defense, and more Stats. 3 stats for Mario, and 3 stats for Luigi. A perfect balance. This is a niche little detail that All-for Dream left off, which I treasure immensely because it's a reflection of the brothers' qualities and whatnots, all shown through a bunch of RPG statistics. Basically, Luigi doesn't need to be stronger, he's already better than Mario at other things, and making him beat his brother disrupts this perfect balance. Okay, I promise I won't be longer in these ones. Come on. Okay. Right in the first 40 seconds of the episode, we got probably one of the top 5 worst fourth wall breaks this series has ever had. Not only is the funny not there, pretty common at this point, but it drags across almost a whole minute, and it completely breaks the canon. The argument can be made of,
oh, but it's just neat little Easter eggs, don't get so worked up over them.
First of all, when I start getting this shoved up in my face all the time, the immersion kinda starts to fade away. And second, it's been demonstrated since the very first episode, version 1 at least, that this series was its very own thing, not having to rely on the canonicity of the games. You could count the mainline ones since they don't have a story, but you definitely don't count the RPGs. Mario and Luigi isn't canon because the Shrubs have an alternate story here, and Paper Mario isn't canon either because Mario didn't know about the Star Spirits or Goombella. What I mean here is telling us that Smash Bros. Of all franchises is canon doesn't make sense. Okay, one more. Among Us. Plot holes aren't exactly new in HOTS. We've seen them in episode 4 and 5, but they merely made the story less polished overall. But this one from episode 10 kinda breaks everything. During their fight, Mario and Luigi take the Tanuki suit and go to space. There are some shitty fourth wall breaks here and there, with some dogshit explanation to why they're able to breathe, but that's not the main issue here. The main issue is that they went to space with just a power-up. Do you know what this insinuates? What exactly prevents two groups from buying 4 Tanuki suits and go whenever they want at top speed? What exactly stopped them from flying to Gombas's fortress or whatever location they'll go in the future at a minimal time? And the worst part is, it makes the warp star, yeah, remember that, completely useless. In fact, it's somehow even worse, because at least the Tanuki suit isn't a total bitch that doesn't let you go anywhere you want. I'm just imagining Mario and Co can't use the warp star, so they just sit there like it's a broken car, and then a bunch of paratroopers fly past them to the location they're going. Like, this is awful. Jeez. Okay, please. Bowser. Bowser. Let's go! Thankfully, this totally not rigged wheel left the best for last. After all the fights and the group goes to sleep, but Bowser doesn't. Rather, he goes to a river to reflect, and I mean literally reflect his position and thoughts after joining Mario. This was something that we needed to see, because after joining them, Bowser pretty much had no conflicts or issues with the rest of the crew. I would prefer if there was some tension around it, like Bowser still being heavily hesitant and the team would fall apart at times, which I think it's a natural progression, but I suppose this is also fine, as long as we had a moment of Bowser still reconsidering, and that moment is this, where he talks with his meaner self about the state of things, eventually reaching agreement and the argument is concluded. While it's said that Luigi's character has been completely flanderized at this point, Bowser's is still very much intact. It carries this series, I tell you. This scene is genuinely well done, and it's like a dim light shining in this dark and cold abyss that has been this episode, which, dreadfully, is the worst one so far. Not only does a large portion not matter, but the little portion that does, single-handedly ruins a lot of plot points established beforehand. Character regression of my favorite character, an enormous plot hole that makes it that so transportation just isn't a thing in this universe anymore, and overuse of jokes that destroy the immersion. Bottom line, this episode blows. Episode 11. Trials in Dry Desert, finding the door to Subcon. Let's start with its own structure. This one has the most number of parts. While others were normally 2 or 3, this one had 4. Going off my memory at the time, I remember episode 11 taking ages to fully finish. And that's true. Episode 10 was released in 2016, Part 1 of 11 was released in 2017, Part 2 in 2018, Part 3 in 2019, and Part 4 in 2021. In essence, this chapter took half a decade to be fully completed. Since the series debuted in 2011, half of its life was episode 11. I'm not hinting that Asylus is lazy and all that, more so that it's safe to assume that he started to lose interest in the series around this time. Another editor's note, while I was doing the timeline, I decided to include all the episodes for fun, and I came to a shocking revelation that in the year 2013, Asylus pumped out 4 whole episodes, 3, 4, 5, and 6, which are also some of the best in the series. It was really motivating that year, and it's the exact opposite of what I'm mentioning now. Okay, back to the video. Which is kinda sad since it sounds exactly like Mark's situation with the original SMBZ and the current one. The burnout comes for all of us. This bled to audience interest as well. Remember when I said that episode 6 part 1 reached 6 million views? Well, episode 11 part 4 didn't even reach 100,000. Nothing more depressing than seeing one of your gods fall off. The biggest offender in all this, however, from my perspective at the time, I was really fatigued with 9 and 10 pretty much going nowhere. So when part 1 of 11 dropped, I was ecstatic. Will the plot finally move forward? Is this it? Are we finally back? Nope. It was an entire filler part dedicated to gag characters such as Hal and Jeff. I felt betrayed. Episode 11, or rather Arc 2, could have come much sooner if Asylus wasn't screwing around with filler so much. It's irritating. And before I move forward, I just want to make this clear for any spy animator out there. If I see these two again, I will eat your Doritos and you can do nothing about it. Thankfully, the other three parts aren't filler. Oh, praise the Lord, finally! But the pacing, dear God. In 9, a lot of scenes could have ended much faster if it wasn't from the constant yapping from the characters, but the idea behind the scenes themselves was important. In 11, however, there are scenes that are either completely irrelevant to the plot, like 1 minute of competing who climbs some hills the fastest, and 4 wall breaks, can't forget those, or scenes that are there for the sake of dragging the episode, like having to sit through an excellent fight that the hero beat easily, and Red Spanish Yoshi appearing and fighting some random guardian bird. To illustrate this point better, let's compare this to episode 1. In episode 1, the first scene gave us a chilling glimpse of the villains, followed by an introduction of the minor fake ones, followed by the heroes getting introduced. The rest of the episode goes back and forth between the two sides, each moment amping up the tension, all happening while the real threat is about to occur, with the last scene being a good cliffhanger that makes the audience hyped for the next episode. In other words, when I stated before that every episode from 1 to 8 mattered, that's because each scene in them mattered. Now let's look at 11. The first quarter is entirely filler. Amazing start there. Then we have a scene of the heroes in the train. They explain why is the Warp Star acting like the way it is, and yet still not solving its irrelevancy problem, so we're skipping that. Then the X-Nauts come in and get instantly clapped. These enemies, built up since episode 7, last about 5 minutes. Oh my god, hurry up! Hurry up!
Let's go!
Alright, that's it. I'm not saying that you have to extend the fight, god no, it's just that the whole scene literally had zero impact on the heroes. For the audience, it went through one ear and left to the other. Did they damage the train and stop it in their tracks? Nope. Did they leave anyone hurt that it affect their journey? Nope. Did they at least damage the tracks beforehand so that it's literally impossible for the heroes to move forwards? Nah bro, let's just cause a rock slide. Problem solved. The X-Nauts' objective was to stop the heroes, or at least slow them down, and they did neither. Why? Because they chose to fight them head on. Great strategy, guys! Looking at the source material, which is 2008 lore, they were incompetent, but they weren't stupid. They had their brains and tech to make up for it. Here, there's no tech, nor brains, only bad writing. The next scene is, oh for fuck's sake, another moment in Princess Shroop's castle, where she talks to some clones and then kills them. Before I rewatched the episode, I kinda forgot this section even existed, and so I gave it the award of Least Memorable HOTS cutscene. Congrats! Then in part 3, it begins with the train reaching its final destination, but not the hero's final destination because now they gotta walk on foot so it lasts longer than it needs to be. Then it's that scene of competing over the hill. The Spanish Yoshi proceeds to fight the Guardian Bird, which, just like with the X-Nauts one, and repeat with me, goes through one ear and leaves to the other. And this is the entirety of part 3. Oh wait, I forgot Journey Troopy appears. This one's for you, buddy. Now, for the sake of not making you guys sleep. Hey, wake up. Wake up! I won't cover parts for scenes in this example, but even when I only covered half of this episode, look how much dragged and slow this is compared to episode 1. And the funny part is, not taking part 1 and 4 into account, both episodes actually have the same length time. One just has scenes that are coherent and decently paced, and the other has scenes that are so disjointed and so padded out that make the entirety of One Piece look like a short movie. Okay, now I think it's a good time to mention this. Why the hell haven't I been showing any part 4 footage? Am I hiding something? Is it so bad that I don't want to talk about it? Or is this a good part of the episode that I'm saving it for last? No. The reason is... actually it's better if I just show it. So, we're recording. A huge mess of a video. Okay, so we're gonna go here. We're gonna type... Super Mario Bros. No... No, fuck, did you know? Heroes of the Stars. There we go. Episode 11, part 4. Why did people type 5? Part 4. So, all that appears is a reaction video from Supernatural, compilation from the series, another compilation from the series, a fight compilation. Man, these people just leech. That's part 2, that's part 3, that's a compilation of Narso's reactions, that's another compilation of really? That's... Are you fucking everywhere? That's Wonder, that's episode 9, that's the opening, that's a preview, I don't know what it is, that's episode 7, that's another reaction, that's episode 8, that's the Mario movie, that's part 1, that's episode 3, that's the theme, that's my video? Alright, so you know where I'm going with this. There's no actual part 4 re-upload. The closest things we have to that is this. This is the video that has the most proof of part 4. That's crazy. Part 4 is almost lost media. I still need to tackle it though, even if it means watching it like this. They face worse allies and it's just as equally as memorable as the previous fights. At this point, one might ask, what is the solution here? I already said it. You don't need them for everything. Episode 3 is a fantastic chapter and it has no fights in it. It's mostly infiltrations, the group's reactions to what the Shrews did, and then getting absolutely corpse-stomped by the Darkstar. If you want an example of a good fight scene, take the one from episodes 6 and 7. While Mario and Bowser fought Goombas, Luigi and Yoshi would get the Star Spirit. Even if it was minimal, there was strategy involved. Mario and Bowser weren't fighting just because, they were fighting to stall and distract. But one thing these two examples have in common is that scenes would go back and forth between the two sides. In episode 3, it would be a scene with Mario and Co, then switches to Bowser and Co. In episode 6 and 7, it would be a scene with Mario and Bowser, then switches to Luigi and Yoshi. This is an absolutely necessary method in storytelling if you want to make things feel grandiose and interesting, because if it's always showing the same characters for a long time, like episode 11, the audience will eventually get fatigued with them and start to lose interest. For me, this felt like events, like actual events that changed the plot forever, while this felt like something that just happened. Fortunately, I do think the rest of this part is okay. They find the Dry Ruins, which was underground the whole time, and the heroes conveniently fall right on top of it. They meet Toot and Koopa, who is the guardian of this sort of temple entrance. There's a bit of exposition regarding the prophecy that 4 heroes would fight the invaders from another world. For some reason I always liked this kind of show, so I didn't mind them much. But, there was a part that pissed me off though. Can you guys read this series name out loud for me? Can you do that? Yeah, this is Dora now. This is called Heroes of the Stars. He-Rose, not hero, right? Then why the hell does the plot state that Mario is the chosen one? Peach also said it in episode 1 and I also didn't like it there. If you're gonna put these guys in a pedestal and then put one of them in an even higher one, don't you think it makes the other 3 less important? Like imagine in the SMBC opening, instead of everyone going super, it's just Mario that goes super and the rest sits there watching. Wait, that's 70% of Dragon Ball fights. Never mind, Asalus is cooking something here. Let this man cook, alright?
Yo, man, you need to finish episode 11, bro.
Wait, what? Why?
Get your seats, been going on for 10 minutes.
Wait, 10 minutes? Oh fuck. Toot and Koopa then challenges Mario to test his abilities. He gets clapped, but he lets them go to the portal door anyway. Whatever. And that's episode 11. There's a reason why I called it a mess. But there's another fitting word for this. Forgettable. I did a poll on which HOTS episodes people remember the most. We got votes for episodes 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 8. Surprisingly, no votes for episodes 4 and 7. But it does make sense since I did say 4 had a lot of problems and 7 had a pitch scene that no one remembers. But the main point here are these 3, with a total of 0 votes. People do not remember these chapters. Some might point out, oh but they're the most recent ones, of course they're not gonna remember. That might be the case for 11, but not for 9 and 10. Because it's been a whole year since then. 8 years. 2016. The Smash Unity and Skibidi Toilet fanbases didn't even exist in that time. At the end of the day, these last almost 25 minutes, damn, just by a few seconds, were just my thoughts on these 3 episodes. There are people like 9. That's fine. There are people like 11. That's also fine. If you like 10, I'll eat your Doritos. For me though, Something will always feel off regarding them. For the longest time, I didn't know what it was, but I think I do now. These episodes lacked relevancy. Dialogue felt unimportant, scenes felt meaningless, plot points were discarded, some characters were wasted, and others got worse. Comparing these to the first 8, they don't feel as impactful. I could talk about the crappy jokes and flanderizations of characters, like this is Bowser, this is Yoshi, and this is Luigi. But really, it's more of the same at this point. Any problem that I've been having is just gonna get even and even worse from here onwards. What do I mean by onwards? This is as far as Heroes of Stars goes, right? Well, for years, this is what people believe to be the full extent of this series, 11 episodes. But if I told you that there's an official continuation made by the same creator that goes beyond episode 11 until episode 15. Obviously this continuation is not on YouTube, it's not even animated. Welcome to the Heroes of the Stars manga. This is an unofficial term created by me, but I think it fits quite well. Firstly, a manga is always ahead of the anime, and secondly, the style of this continuation is done in comic form on DeviantArt, also similar to a manga. This is what I meant when I said Heroes of Stars is the most anime-like series to exist. Not only does it take a lot of tropes from an anime, but even goes beyond that and has a manga of its own. Since a lot of people aren't aware of this part of the series, they're probably wondering, does it get better from here? Tony Gomez sex with a humanoid. At first, I was gonna cover this section normally, a bunch of thoughts here, a lot of criticism there, but as you're about to see, the quality of the manga is so terrible that the quality of this video also has to drop. And so, for the rest of it, it's going to be me and 2 other friends of mine reading the series in real time. Meet Francie Y and Concerned Bear. Bear has been featured in my channel before, in fact, he even voiced Bowser early in Retrospective back when the series wasn't complete mid, and Francie is here because he is what I like to call him, the CEO of HOTS manga. Essentially, he has a way better knowledge of this part of the series than me and Bear do. Spoiler alerts? This is actually, and not joking, and being completely serious, one of the most unintentionally cursed Mark Sprite content that I've ever witnessed, and that includes Amy's Bad. And so, without further ado, please enjoy. I've asked Francie first and foremost to compile a list for me.
The favorites.
Yeah,
The classics.
Because the way
They're all over the
let
place.
me
I saw.
show you. I know DeviantArt. The way you can do stuff is like put a chapter here, then another here, but no.
Mhm.
The style is just put it all in one fucking folder and hope for the. Ooh.
I saw that. Oh
Like-
my god.
Off to a great start, and then 9/11.
Yeah, dude. Oh my god, that's like one of my favorite pieces, dude.
National
Like I think
September
this,
11.
like I think no, I feel like this image perfectly encapsulates the tone of current Heroes of Stars. It tries so hard to be serious, but it makes me laugh instead. Like this
Yeah.
is Sonic Lost World type of shit. Man. I'm supposed to be the best.
Yeah, I was too slow to
No,
save my
no.
buddy.
I
No.
wanted to say that in his gallery some pages were missing, and then I actually had to check on Google where they were,
Oh
and I
shit.
they found them somehow.
You know, Francie, you were dedicated, but to be honest, I wouldn't have done that.
Like,
What is? Hey!
No, that's spoilers. Okay, so the first thing that we should do while on the page is check his favorite. Let's go. Let's start actually reading.
So, yeah, I can,
Wait,
I can do some shit if you
Okay, so it begins with yet again another peaching. Like at this point, it's starting to get really apparent now.
Oh, this is where she had the old design. She was dark purple after the design.
Space
Yeah.
Bee cameo. That's Space Bee cameo.
Yeah, that's all he gets in the video.
Oh, it's crazy.
Peach is like getting tortured. Should I read the dialogue? No, right?
Yeah, no, we don't. Don't do that.
Don't do
So
that.
basically, she's getting beaten the absolute shit out of.
You know, every time you look at a close-up, you should give like a rating.
Okay, so I rate the one with the bloody nose like a 4 out of 10.
This drawing is not the worst, so I'll give it a 6.
I'll give you a 5.
Princess Shub has now a new ability called Flashbacker. Like, you can't be serious.
So she's able to flash back into other people.
Flashbacker, and then
That seems kind of overpowered.
and convenient, you know.
Yeah, convenient for.
Like,
Rosalina, what are you not doing on the observatory? Wait, what was the reason? No, dude, how I would have done it, like she would have telepathically communicated or some shit. Why is she down here, dude?
what are you idiots still doing here? And she's smiling.
Yeah.
What are you idiots still doing here? Get out of here, man.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. What are you idiots doing here? And then you got Green Cookies like, what?
They are doing the Bob meme.
Oh boy, those sprites. Okay.
Yeah, those sprites are literally us, dude.
I give this one a 7, actually.
It's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
This is actually pretty good. If you rendered it, it would look amazing. Oh,
7.5. 7.5. Yeah.
Yeah, 7.5, 7 is good.
They
We
just
moved on.
spawn. Like, there's no door here. For some reason. They just.
The transition is kind of crazy.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but we have we are so retro moment. Is it better to look a bit retro?
Did you know that
Mario,
that
is it
at
just
the end
me, or do you look a bit retro? What? What the fuck?
of-
Mamma mia.
Oh, I forgot Goombella was here. Lol.
I like how there's basically nothing of worth that's been said to the point where we could just like literally skip over all this.
No, because the dialogue is just that forgettable, bro.
No, they're just yapping. Yeah, like go do something.
Like, get in there and kick words and beefing ass. Yeah.
Yeah.
She has some strange legs.
Strange legs.
Oh, yeah.
Goombas don't have
Some reason-
legs, Francie.
Shh.
Oh yeah, the red Spanish Yoshi is also here. Let's not forget about him.
Don't worry, amigos.
Senor Bowser.
Senor Bowser.
Channel boom.
Let's go.
Gabriel.
Yeah.
Let's just listen to this dialogue and see if it suits them. Come on, man. Let me go. Listen, you like cars? I got a really nice car. If you give me, I'll give you a ride in the car. What is this? What is this? Then he starts crying.
She's
Back then I used to create. Now I will destroy. And then he farts on her or something. What's that? Excuse
Here we
me,
go,
gentlemen. Shall we play Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on Switch?
Like, here we go. Another wall break joke. It's so funny. You
God,
will laugh. You will laugh.
I'm not laughing with the joke. I'm laughing at the joke. That's the sad part. Wart's face, dude. Well,
I just
I'm
want
gonna
to
miss
end
him.
it all. Like, after no
Dude.
cars, me win no car.
yeah, me with no car.
Overgrown amphibian, like.
yeah, he calls him an amphibian twice. Good
That's
job,
racist.
Luigi.
That's racist.
That's
Why don't you
racist,
take
yeah.
this outside and.
Amphibian derogatory.
Wow, Luigi, you're awesome.
Wow, Luigi, you're awesome.
I know,
Luigi.
now just sit back and watch magic instead of me releasing you.
Wow, Luigi has rich.
Luigi, you fucking dick saver, dude.
Like,
Oh
just
my-
watch.
Dude, they don't give a fuck. Holy shit, they just like left her to die, dude. Show
we have
yourself,
chosen this
cowards.
path. Life works in strange ways.
Yeah, no, my favorite Mario line. I remember the game where
They
he
clearly led
says,
you here, as have ours. We will give you a new choice: surrender now and leave, or stay and face your destiny.
No. Okay, hold on. Why do Mario and Luigi sound like the villains here, dude?
They do. Like,
They
they're just,
sound
They
more
give
evil
a
than
fuck.
War does.
They don't give a fuck. They want to torture Wart.
no, they're torturing the sport frog, man. Like, what did they do?
Oh, what about the stuff, by the way?
Oh, yeah, I've been forgetting about those. Damn it.
That's like 9 out of 10. For the one where it's his face, it's
I
not.
think this 6. I think for
7.
the angle of the face, it's fine.
Why are Mario and Luigi so verbose?
The decisions you make and the actions that follow. Shut up, shut up.
A
Like,
reflection of who you really are.
oh my god, if you...
Holy
Who's
shit!
writing
This
this?
is so bad.
Is the Silas' newborn cousin writing this?
Yeah, no, it's a Silas let his little brother write it. He's like, here,
Oh.
dude, I'll let you on the computer. This isn't even bad anymore. It's just fucking funny, dude.
I think we're about to have the first, maybe fetish content.
Oh god, dude.
Oh shit.
An overgrown turtle and a green dinosaur. My apologies, but your quest ends here. Roberto, come! Oh, that's foreshadowing. He has no,
Oh, let's go, let's go.
Yeah!
9 over 10.
No,
9
this is
over
a
9
10.
10.
This is a
No, I know
9,
that's
9
good.
over 10.
Wait, what is Yoshi doing? Hold on. Wait, what was Yoshi doing? He's raising her up?
It's
He's
raising it up,
proposing
yes.
himself.
Miss Birdo Marie Beauty Veldetta Jacqueline Hansen, would you do me the honor of becoming my bride? What will the children look like? I found the yin to my yang, the ping to my pong, the wind beneath my wings.
The
And so
hotel
I
to
asked
my trivago.
the hotel to
This
my
is how I met my
trivago.
Hey, that
So,
Robert is
no,
like, what is...
What is happening?
Oh, and then they get the Stars Restrospective. Alright.
Dude.
Like,
I think the audience is starting to see how this is gonna work.
Arc 1 was fighting the Guardians for the Star Spirit. Arc 2 was raising them up.
The Birdo, yeah. Dude.
Oh, fuck. Oh, God.
Wait a minute, what? Prince Froggy? Fort Fox?
Yeah, yes, a son and Kamek actually moved already.
And then
Dude, the
Froggy
close
fell.
It's on fire.
Dude.
No.
Yeah, like,
Boss was like, Kemi, what the fuck, bro? In terms of meme material, I give this like an 8 out of 10. And
Yeah, this is an 8 out of 10. I think
yeah.
Jiraiya moved.
the final rating was 4.
Out of
Jiraiya?
4.
I won't lie, this performance looks kind of sick.
Yeah, in sprite form it looks pretty cool.
Oh, okay, this was relevant actually. Damn, didn't know.
Yeah, the
Alright.
Waka lore. The Waka lore.
You damn bastard!
You son of a bitch!
You son of a bitch!
You little bastard!
You little bastard!
You
You're
know
not
where
I
I
am. I am a Luigi.
I'm a lazy. Number one.
Dragon Thunder Blast!
Hold on. That Luigi goes.
He stops
16
being
to
retro,
normal.
yeah. We're so retro.
We're not retro anymore. Retro era is over. Oh my gosh, Yoshi, you look so sexy.
This Birdo Yoshi thing is going insane.
What kind of guy who like sticks his boat out, all his cells on fire, a burg in each hand, a cape in his bag, ready for Valhalla?
What a piece of dialogue
the
that is.
metaphor and lost the plot myself. Yeah, that's what happened to HOTS. Oh, foreshadowing? This is not for world break. This is like fifth world break. It's the ceiling that's breaking now. My future
Husband?
husband and husband.
I'm gonna be honest, Mario and Luigi shouldn't fucking care, dude.
Robbie.
My husband and
Robbie.
Yoshi's like, fuck.
He's like, bro.
Oh yeah, these guys were here. What the fuck are they doing in Red Yoshi?
No, they're useless. Hola, amiga. What's a fine lady like you doing in a dimension like this?
Get away from me, quick.
Spanish Riz did not work.
No, the Spanish, never mind.
So they just get the star. Oh my god, this arc sucks so much. Like they just
Holy shit.
episode 11 dragged, and then episode 12 just done. Okay, I just realized maybe it's not as fast as I'm thinking, because with all the fucking filler dialogue that's gonna happen.
It's gonna drag out, yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna drag
Yeah.
immensely. Oh my! No, not a Pokemon reference again. No.
Me man's kryptonite.
Okay, they get powers. Sleeping
Yeah.
magic, like, who the fuck's gonna make them sleep? By the way, hey, what about me? You're not a hero of Stars Compella.
Oh.
You're not a
You're not a
hero of
hero.
Stars. Oh, he said it. He said it. The name of the series.
Oh my god, he said it,
The only one who hasn't been as pathetic so far, maybe Yoshi. Yeah, he risked up the.
Yeah, Giga Chad Yoshi over here. Oh my god, Wart isn't dead.
I suggest you guys to pay attention in this part.
Okay.
Alright.
That's right, Dark Horse Plumber sent me flying, can't believe this. Hey, you do the Dark Star thing, that should has look, I need to... Oh, he talks. Okay.
Why did he give it a mouth?
Oh,
It looks disgusting.
read the head game.
Dude. Fuckability tier list for Heroes of the Stars. Okay.
Oh, what the fuck?
Oh shit!
What the
Whoa!
fuck? He actually died.
Yeah,
No way! He got eviscerated!
yeah,
I'm actually in disbelief.
yeah.
You kill him, and not only do you kill him in the most grotesque way imaginable.
If you think about it, Ward was very unlucky in this series because he lost his son and then he died.
He lost his son, got bullied by Mario and Luigi, and then died.
Yeah,
Holy
he
shit!
was really bad. Dude.
You set him a villain. Make us feel sorry for him. And then you kill him. Like, this is not fulfilling for the audience at all.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's funny as fuck.
No, I'm not laughing. This is kind of tragic. Seems this is the last page. Okay. Now I gotta go back to episode.
What do you think overall of the episode?
As a whole?
Overall,
I have
yeah.
no fucking
Overall?
words, man. Like,
I'm speechless.
you start the series really fucking funny, and then you end it off with what getting killed.
Like the most tragic shit I've ever seen.
Like, what the hell, man? I want shit like this. Come on, give me shit like this more.
Yeah, give me devastated Bowser.
Okay, now we're getting to this.
Oh no.
Is episode 13 a filler episode?
Yes.
More filler, let's go!
More yap.
Just a quick disclaimer before we move on. Asalos had no influence on this episode, it was mostly written by another guy. I'm saying this because due to future endeavors regarding this part, might think it was him, but it wasn't. Okay? Okay.
We've all been chosen for a... So what the heck are we doing here again? Go Belly, shut your fucking pie hole!
Flipping.
We have all been chosen for a very important purpose. While the Heroes of the Stars trademark.
Yo, he said
Go to collect the Star Spirit. I'm here to make sure you are all strong enough to beat the shrooms. Yeah! You said it, boss! Because in case you haven't noticed, our kind isn't exactly the most sturdy. But you all must remember every Goomba is different. And these guys have protection. You don't. These guys are inflated. And these guys live underwater.
Can we let Bea dub the entire episode, please?
100 likes and I'll do a professional dub of it.
Okay.
Goomba lesson 1.
Number 1, berating your underlings. Goomba lesson number 4, YouTuber.
Twitch streaming, live leak streaming.
Head care and maintenance. Goomba head requires 50 polishes every morning. Goomba lesson number 12, lesson numbering. All Goomba lessons should be numbered as follows: 1, 4, 7, 12. Oh, because it skipped the... Okay, that's funny, actually.
This is what happens when you don't kill off your villain.
Go ready. Go, and then he just shoots himself.
He farts again.
Here we go.
Oh no.
What is wrong with you? I'm sorry, sir. I was down bad. What?
Something about him creeps the hell out. Me too, punk.
Punk. Also, editor meme man, if you're watching this from the future.
You didn't let me man hate Sonic.
Yeah, did you know he fucking hates Sonic? Every fiber of
Especially
his being.
Sonic Adventure 2. He likes Sonic Boom.
Yeah, he really likes Sonic.
I really hope he's not listening.
Yeah, imagine he's hearing that. He's like, what did you say?
Okay, I'm back now.
Yeah, I didn't say anything demonetizable. We said some pretty cool stuff.
Don't worry, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see what you guys said, by the way.
Okay. Okay.
We're screwed.
We're in the fetish part now, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Who's the charming?
Here we go. Oh.
Hello.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Squirt.
What?
Are you kidding me?
Not the nosebleed. Anyway,
You see, in 19... What the fuck?
you see, in 1947, a UFO crashed in Roswell, New Tostarena. And since that day, a new agency was formed to investigate and contain the intergalactic and paranormal. My agency, the Mushroom Strategic Defense Force, or MSDF for short. Aaron Serville.
What the fuck?
Officer Midbus?
Yeah, Midbus is part of the FBI.
I'm not gonna recover from this.
Yeah, me neither, dude.
This is not filler. It's starting to become fan-made of something that's already fan-made. He only does these things because he wants what's best for us. Prince Yashu is a tyrannical being, and we need to do everything to help the heroes of Stars.
Oh my god, he said it, he said Holy shit.
Cursed by the god adorers, for they shall known be shorn of you. And like, Jimmy, what the fuck?
Jimmy, what?
And then what? Oh,
10 out of 10. 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. Look at that, dude. Doodle Bob.
Uh-oh.
Audience is not what it looks like. Actually,
Okay,
it
guys.
is.
What the scallop?
What the scallop? What the shrimp?
I know it's not what it seems, but it is what it seems.
Let's take this slowly. We need to let it develop.
They start apologizing and they start.
Yeah, they're like sorry. And then the
What?
tension starts to increase. The eyes is so bad. The eyes look I didn't want to see that. And don't come back until you show the world what a true Goomba can do. Yes, sir! I'm coming!
No, I'm just speechless.
Oh no. They have oral.
And this is it, ladies and gentlemen. This series has officially hit rock bottom. We actually had a thought, what if we were not laughing because it's funny, but also because we're coping too?
Uncle Fawful. Mimi is not his nephew.
They were like, no, let's just go with that. Uncle Fawful.
Senor Fawful. Yeah.
Oh, the heroes are here. Damn. In that filler episode.
Oh, they're just chilling.
Like,
Finally, we're back to the characters I actually give a fuck about.
Like, is the Birdo a permanent character now?
Yeah, no, she's too busy sucking Yoshi's knob.
The cast.
And
It's right.
that's it for this one.
So what
I
do we
think
get out of
that-
this? Just a bunch of fetish art, pretty much.
That was a really bad one.
Yeah, it was horrible. No, I'd rather take the sad wart story any day of the week.
Let's go, another
And,
Peach scene.
yes.
Oh my god, I love Peach.
You guys remember Hal and Jeff, right? They were so funny.
Yeah, you definitely didn't skip that part.
They were the
Lol.
funniest motherfuckers alive.
And then again, another fourth wall break.
Another
we are so back.
reference.
We are so
The
back to
universe's
fourth wall.
finest.
They act like they're dead. Let's go!
Yeah, they're
Oh,
dead.
she was.
Yeah, despite
Despite Princess should torture me.
Clean the fucking floor.
Wait,
Oh, it's raw cock.
you little bastard! I'll kill you!
Oh,
Anime sweat drop. Who? What? Oh no, we triggered the alarm.
Alright, the princess is alive. The should be coming.
The troops can be coming. Devil's Eye Parasite.
Damn. She got sent to the Shadow Realm. Damn.
She got sent to the Shadow Realm.
No,
What?
wait, I'm not sad that Starlord died there.
The blood in their bodies and it's just a line like drawn.
I never understand why people can't just like edit the sprites and instead they use a marker.
I'm remembering Knuckles in SMBHOTS episode 5, where his mom just becomes HD out of a sudden.
Oh, she's evil. She's cursed.
You things attack my people. corrupted the star world, brought so many pain and suffering, and now you wish to share my physique as much as you think you can, and that is something I will never forgive. Wow. And then he died.
Whoa! Holy shit! Fucking killed him.
The fuck happened?
Yeah, that's my reaction to it.
Little cameo.
Oh, she turns Fire Peach. That's kinda nice. Nice ponytail.
Nice
Not this-
ponytail! Yeah, I bet. What a team shot. What an absolute gang. We got Rockhawk.
We got Peach.
got-
You got Twink. We got a bitch. We got Steve. We got Hal.
Hal.
We got Jeff. The dream team right there. Wait, do I know?
Oh,
you?
this is a reference to Bowser Kingdom.
Oh,
Bowser's Kingdom?
This is from a movie of Bowser Kingdom.
Does that mean that it's canon to this now? I guess.
Yes.
imagine you make a relatively well-known series that is also really funny, and then 10 years later another series goes, well, yours is canon to now, mine, bitch.
Yeah, I want to see if they ask for permission or not.
Wait a fucking minute. The fuck are they doing back in Shroop's castle?
The
What?
Shroop Castle.
This brings back all bad memories of when we were blasted by the Dark Star's power and when our series was good.
What's wrong, Yoshi? And then we have Gang come in. I like how they're in the exact same positions.
My god. This is bothering the hell out of me because episode 3 made it seem like it was damn near impossible to rescue Peach. And now, not even halfway through the series, she just leaves. Do you know how much incompetent they make the shoes look as well? Like, fuck, this ruins a lot of stuff.
Also, I feel like the Mario Gang has no reason to be here. What the fuck are you doing? Oh my god.
They are alive.
Pretty sure it was.
You know, this shot goes kind of crazy, but Banzai, you think that this would be Yoshi, Luigi, and Mario, but now it's Luigi.
No, Luigi, Yoshi, and
Red.
Spanish Red Yoshi.
Senor Yoshi. I will say this episode since 9 is the least filler one so far. This is
More
like
stuff
an
happens
improvement, but at this point the series is already in the dump. So, Peach, it's you. Oh my god.
Oh, so bad.
And then that's it. That's the series.
I wish.
Wow.
Apparently, the Koopa is gonna have the Sonic voice and it's gonna be cursed as fuck.
Let's rock this house!
Big punch, drum impact, sound missile, Bolo Blaster, Blaze Blast. Oh.
Oh my god, the trace image. Don't mess with me, you fungus
Can you
freaks.
be Goku?
What the fuck?
This is everything wrong with this series in one image.
We got Mario, Luigi, Yoshi, and Bowser. And then, characters who weren't supposed to appear as of now, only appearing at the very end of the series. Yoshi's sex slave, Sonic. Characters that are supposed to like fuck off after Arc 2, somehow are still here. Yoshi's sex slave 2. Bowser's Kingdom. Senor Yoshi. You little bastard. Twink. Bitch. And Peach.
Twink and bitch.
Everyone's just appearing.
Why is she say? Wait, okay. Let's see how Rosalina introduces herself. Scroll up. Hey Mario, long time no see. But the problem is that like she would never fucking say that.
They're heading to the castle, I know.
Me when I have to invite everybody in my school to my birthday
I just wanna
party.
mention at the start of the series how alone the heroes felt, but that felt grounded because it was them against the world, and now you look at this and you're like, what the hell, man?
Oh my god, that close-up sucks. Fuck.
Me, Rosalina.
Yeah, me. Yeah, she got that me head build. You're right.
Glad to meet you all in time. You see, the stakes are higher than ever been.
Great darkness is coming.
Why are there airships in space?
I guess if they could do it in Mario Galaxy, oh my god. King of Silas?
King of...
No.
Huh?
It says
What?
King of Silas. I'm coming for you.
This guy is the Super Mario Land final boss.
Alright, it seems it ends here. Finally, you're about to reach the final one. Let's go!
By the way, this one is still in production. It's not complete.
The Axum Rangers, where did they come from?
Just a flashback.
Oh.
This is where all the iconic ones are, dude. I have no mercy. Even in context, after reading the other two, I still don't know what the fuck is going on.
Oh, biggest.
Where's your
Oh, they
baby?
appear. They finally appear, actually.
Oh shit! Hey, you did good. Why does he say that? Why does he say it's wrong?
Oh, no,
Oh,
because 6 is first.
oh my
Okay.
god.
Why
Oh
is
my
this so
God,
badly or
Eddie, can I kill you? That'd be cool.
No,
Yeah,
no, no. You know, this part almost looks good, but they had to make this line go beyond that.
They had to make her start mewing. Her jawline is
man.
fucked.
They're still fucking together? Like, let it go, bro.
Oh yeah, yeah. At least they're not in the middle of fire and they're in a Windows XP background.
I'm pouring, man. It's pouring, man.
I'm pouring, man. Smiling face? You have to know so much shit to find this even remotely funny.
Wait. You don't let them in, but you let Buzzer in. Okay. She's getting the visions. Seem a bit off. It don't sound like you're happy that you're home. Don't worry about it.
What's wrong?
And then.
Dude, that's me. That's literally me.
Alright, can we
No.
can we read
Fuck
the,
him.
can,
Wait the fuck.
can we read the,
No, it's the Mario Run. It's the Mario Run one.
what?
Dude, yeah, it's that one. Dude.
Iris Dolphin Shoe? Another made up name?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
hate these fan-made names. Stop giving them white boy names. Get the fuck out of here.
At least it's not Amelia Rose. Iris even lost
Why
her
would you
sister
pick-
in the crossfire and the sister. We call ourselves here.
He said it. Oh my god, he said it.
He said it again. He said it. He heard ourselves stars.
He said it. He said it.
Yeah,
Fuck this reading
we're
order.
playing ping pong in this bitch.
You're the ping to my pong. You're the yin to my yang. Anyway, she's getting the visions.
Enough! Oh, damn. So apparently this is where Mario starts modding, so I gotta read this. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Princess Shrew, she knows everything now. Princess Shrew used a strange power to look into my memories and unearth information I was supposed to give it to anyone else. And to get it, I was tortured.
Tortured? Oh.
I guess this explains why the princess was fainting in that cell in a puddle of blood.
Boom! Oh, Mario!
Luigi got fucked up in 9 and 10, and now apparently Mario got fucked up as well. It's so over. Fuck.
You knew something had been done to the princess, and you said nothing! Big bro, you gotta calm down. Calm down. How can I possibly be calm, Luigi? How can any of us be calm? I made us abandon Princess Peach when she needed us most.
And then you supposedly shift the blame to Rosalina.
She knew how dangerous the shrubs were and did nothing to help immediately. She learned about Peach getting tortured and waited until now to talk to us about it. She's capable of so much, and she doesn't do anything. In fact, now that I think about it, that space adventure I had, it never needed to happen, did it? You could have fetched all the power stars and the grand stars you needed, and even could have taken on Bowser yourself. Could you have?
With all respect, I would implore it.
Answer the question now! Yes!
Yeah.
Oscar-winning dialogue, I'm telling you right now. I should have known, damn it! So all those months I spent in space went for nothing! Nothing at all! Bro, you know that's not true. That journey improved you. The places you've been, the people you've helped. Oh, like you? What if I hadn't saved you in Ghostly Galaxy, huh? What would you have done then? Nothing! What? No, why the hell is it we keep doing nothing when we know bigger things are at play like Red? Pendulin!
This is where the part where Silas actively acknowledged the plot point that I pointed out.
How is it that they haven't gotten there yet? And you got to that outpost on the frickin' pipe! Couldn't you have given it to them at the time that they were on Yoshi's Island? They were the only one pipe block I have, amigo! This fucking... And then he goes into holy wall of text. You see, Rosalina? You have all this power, and you could barely use it. If you had any clue as to what you were doing, Bowser wouldn't have bit this galaxy reactor. The Megabug wouldn't have turned you into Cursor.
What?
You talk big about watching over and protecting the cosmos when you can't even help the smallest planets in the midst of our war. Yeah, and then he goes like this. And yet, Here you are now with us, instructing us with a duty, telling us about certain doom that you very well could have prevented with the smallest things. Yes. If you actually can, you would have done something.
All right, wait a moment here. Wait a moment here. This close-up here, it's probably the best thing I ever seen in a sprite series. It ended up being the sticker in the SMBHOTS server. It was so fucking iconic that it was demanded as the best close-up in Hero of the Stars.
Man,
Yeah?
through that entire scene, you should put like tragic ass music in the background where he's like,
this close-up changed my life. This close-up made me think that I was doing something wrong in my life. Seeing this, I was thinking I can actually aspire at perfection. I don't want to hear shit. This is just pick. This is the best thing I ever seen. You know, I don't know what's wrong with Asiris. Asiris did everything good. Anything good. Nothing bad. They changed the opinion of this series. It's just perfect. Just for the second. I'm sorry, I'm sobbing, sorry.
Crying along with Mario there, aren't you?
Alright, I think I finished my monologue. You can go keep going.
teleported Mario puts a speech outside of the castle. I'm not gonna narrate that part because it's not a big speech like the other one. The universe. The friends we have, like that ugly fuck on the left. We're the heroes of the stars! For our kingdom! For each other! And it's like...
I can't. That my head hurts from laughing.
No, when the pipe is plugged, keep plugging. Look, I will admit, I might not know how to beat the shrubs, but what I do know is that nothing is certain until we make it that way. As a team!
He gets the same fucking close up.
I'm sorry!
Oh, what the fuck?
What the fuck? Wait a minute, I wasn't expecting that shit. Oh no.
Of course he's gone.
The curse is gone. I was emotionally moved by this moment.
This is far
from over.
Damn it, Mario just had to pipe her to get rid of the curse. Dante Cooper joined your party. Woo! Guys, it's almost over.
The pain is almost over.
You're Mario of Earth. Nice name. You don't
Mario of Earth. You don't me.
But I know.
You don't me, but I know you.
There are many discussions recently going around about the coalition. Bro, is this a Star Wars now?
Yeah, it's Star Wars, dude.
Cock.
Cock?
Nice name, bro.
Are you gonna put that Cyberpunk song every single time we mention?
That's about it.
Anyway, the Mario crying scene was cinema.
Guys, final verdict overall.
Peak. This issue was peak. We're done. It's over.
For me, I think I'll give my opinion at the end of the video. Which is now actually. For a retrospective that has been going on for almost a year, I feel like I've gotten really close to this series, both in a positive and negative way. On one side, I've got to appreciate the series that I loved in my childhood a lot more, now that I don't have the funny sprite go ooga booga mentality. But on the other, I've discovered about the lows that I never knew were there. I'm not here to kink shame, but putting this in a series that kids will watch is outright inexcusable. I have a lot of respect for Asalis for creating a series that at the time could be considered a worthy successor of OG SMBZ, and even if he wasn't the main culprit of episode 13, I can't really deny that he allowed it and published it. Still, it's a much better person than 80% of other sprite animators. At this point in the video, what is there else that's to mention? I've dissected this series from top to bottom, right to left, and up and down. Maybe a tier list? Episode 1. Solid foundation regarding the protagonist, villains, and the premise. Even if the introduction itself was a bit plain and generic, I can look past that since it establishes important plot points that get further explored in the future episodes like the War Star, Star Spirits, and the Shrooms. A tier. Episode 2. A chapter with a lot more focus in action, has decent animation, has creative ideas such as splitting the fights in 3, which makes each one of them special and memorable. This is the episode that actually introduces Bowser, makes us understand Bowser, makes us feel pity for Bowser. It also gives us a small glimpse of the Shrooms as a genuine threat and a force to be reckoned with. It has everything. S tier. Episode 3. I think this one is very unique. It has a lot of cool set pieces, it forces the heroes and anti-heroes to temporarily team up, it's where it actually reveals the troops for what they are, a comical species on the outside and a ruthless one on the inside. As dark as this one can get, I still can't undermine that the humor is pretty decent when it lands. Also, not to forget that it's my favorite episode of the series. S2. Episode 4. It's very obvious that you put a good emphasis on Bowser, ultimately being a conclusion to one of the stages in his arc, but I think you got too much of an emphasis, because the episode itself is really short, only being 14 minutes, and the sections that didn't focus on Bowser had a lot of flaws and felt rushed and shoehorned. A tier. Episode 5. Extremely important for the plot, which not only tells us the story about the troops but also about the Star Spirits, following episode 1's groundwork. While the latter's exposition was presented in a pretty much boring way, it's saved by the funny montage early on and the Star Hill scene. This part specifically is where the heroes get a clear view of their goals and obstacles for the next dozens of episodes. This one is what marks the end of Act 1 and the start of Act 2. S tier. Episode 6, the start of the adventure, beginning in the Mushroom Kingdom, to the forest, to the mountains, and finally to Gumball's fortress. I really like that this episode didn't drag their trip since it was the very first one. It was meant to be simple, and it was simple. It's here that we get a proper introduction to how arc bosses will go, and how Luigi is actually brave and collected, unlike a certain episode tells you. S tier. Episode 7, the defeat of Goombas and the retrieval of the first Star Spirit. The fight scene actually had thought put into it, and I like how the Goombas were handled here. Firstly, Tony was actually relevant and not poor nectar, and Goombas changing sides and now helping the heroes actually feels earned. However, this was only the first half, with the second one, as I mentioned, being somewhat unimportant and not as memorable. A tier. Episode 8. The last episode before the fall. While I praise its concept for being original, a Bowser Jr. side story, showcasing what happened to the other 4 heroes and further expanding the world building, I don't think there were many peculiar moments. That's why my review of it was so short and I had to resort on dogging on Sonic Prime to extend it. B tier. Episode 9. Welcome to the start of the end. Being the beginning of Arc 2, this chapter conceptually delivered, but in execution it shot itself in its foot, with it being more villain than canon. It's also here that it began with the plot holes regarding the Warp Star and Luigi's character starting to regress. C tier. Episode 10. My thoughts on this one are simple. It doesn't matter if the fights are well animated, it doesn't matter if Bowser had a good moment at the end, remove the entire episode from the series, and arguably nothing would change. That would also solve the terrible plot holes and bad characterization it created. D tier. Episode 11. In my opinion, and objectively speaking, this episode is better than 10. But I can't really ignore the huge amount of unnecessary stuff and worthless scenes and characters. Since its death time was half a decade, each part felt insanely disjointed as the style and writing would suddenly shift between one another. Also, not to forget that part 1 was purposely made to be filler. D tier. Episode 12, the first episode of the manga and the conclusion of Arc 2. This one, somehow, is better than the previous 2 since it doesn't actually drag and ended relatively fast. Still though, the arc ends in a pretty much strange way by gaining more characters on our side like Birdo and Roberto, and then leaving Luigi to fight war all by his own and beating felt somewhat unearned, as his character has not been real likable for a few episodes now. Even if the Dark Star working on its own was a neat little plot twist at the end, no one cares, since it got overshadowed by Wart's death, which is still traumatizing me. C tier. Episode 13. And you better fucking stay there. Episode 14. This one is where Peach somehow manages to escape the troops, basically defeated the entire point of the hero's motivation, destroying the entire point of Act 2, and it diminished any threat the troops still had left. It's at this stage that even the average reader is starting to realize that the structure of the series is falling apart on its own. I don't know what was happening on Asalo's side, but I felt like it was highly evident that it stopped caring about this series at this point, completely. E tier. Episode 15. I think we all know where this one is going. Listen, Francie forced me to do it. Either either this or edit my readers, okay? Okay. And that's it now, actually. I think I have nothing more to say about this series. Like I said, I really don't. Actually, I do have one thing. Asilos, if you're watching this, I hope you take this retrospective as a way to improve your series. It's not to say that everything I mentioned was objective. You are welcome to disagree, but please, at least put it in your mind's backlog so it stays there for you to remember. And I hope that you don't take this video in a negative light. That wasn't real Megalo here. Respectfully, me man.